So next up we have my next character, which is my Dark Elf Warden. Now this guy is a very interesting guy. He is a multi-role build. Now he can tank and he can heal incredibly well. So we'll go on to the healing bar first. This is what I use him as most of the time, as a healer. So going in we have Enchanted Growth. This is similar to my Templar build where we had Breath of Life as the main heal. Enchanted Growth for the Warden is the main heal for this, and he's your emergency heal. So if anybody needs healing, stand next to them and call this in, and they'll get health back straight away. Moving on, we have Budding Seeds, and this is an area of effect heal. So any ally that stood inside a circle that you call in, it's like a big blue circle that goes in, and if they're stood inside it, they regain 6,000 health after 6 seconds. They can also get a synergy, which is Harvest, and they get an additional 6,000 health over 5 seconds. So you can get 12,000 health off of this one heal. And again, it's very good to just keep spamming it and proxing it onto the floor, because then your allies aren't going to die. Again, this character is built for trials, PvE, dungeons, veteran, all the rest of it. He can do those quite well. PvP, he kind of struggles out a little bit. But again, if you're just going to play this in PvE, you're going to be laughing with this character again. So going into Ward Ally, this is a Restoration of Staff skill, and this gives you and your allies a 3,000 point damage shield, and the shield's strength increases by up to 300% depending on the severity of the target's wounds. So if you take a lot of damage, or your ally takes a lot of damage, the shield that you call onto them can do 300% additional depending on how much damage they've taken, to keep them alive longer. Also in the Resto Staff abilities we have Healing Springs. Again, this is the same as the Templar build we just covered, and this is a very good heal to have. It sort of does a very small amount of healing, but it's a big circle again that you can walk inside of, so calling that with Budding Seeds at the same time, people aren't going to die basically. We also have Spiked Bone Shield. Now this is because, like I say, my character is a multi-role player, and he can tank and he can heal extremely well. So Spiked Bone Shield is a shield that I have on my first bar, just to have a bit of protection whilst I'm calling heals in. And then we have Panacea again, which is the multi-restoration staff ability for the ultimate, and it gives you 3 abilities plus an additional heal on top of it. Going into the second bar, we have Gripping Shards. This is an area of effect attack, and it stuns enemies in the area. Like I said, this is my tanking bar, so crowd control is a very good thing to have. Expansive Frost Cloak is a sort of a frost cloak that you wrap around yourself and your allies, and it grants major resolve and major ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5,500 for 24 seconds. Then we have Polar Wind. This is a self-heal, and it also heals nearby allies for 17% of their max health. So it's again another little heal you can do. Crystallized Slab is basically 3 giant ice slabs you call around yourself, and if you have like an archer or a sorcerer stood next to you firing shots, the shield absorbs those shots and then fires an ice slab at the enemy and knocks them down, and it does 73,000, protects you from 73,000 damage for more 4 basically. And like I say, each time you absorb a projectile, you restore 578 magicka and launch an icy bolt back at the enemy, dealing 1,772 frost damage. We then have a main taunt. This is Inner Fire, and it is found in the Undaunted skill tree. This is extremely important to have as a tank. You need to get the big bosses onto you. So when you're tanking, you need to call your shields in, call all your heals in if you need to, and crowd control, and then literally just tank the enemies. So Inner Fire is a very good one to have. And I also use Healing Thicket on this character, which is a big area of effect heal. It's basically the big green forest you see people calling in around you sometimes in PvP areas. It's a very, very, very good heal to have. And like I say, you can change that out if you want to Permafrost, which is the Warden's ultimate for the frost side of things. And it does crazy damage, but again, I've got Healing Thicket just because I like to keep people alive and myself alive whilst I'm tanking. I have all the passives in Animal Companions, mainly because I used to do DPS with this character, but it wasn't too great, so I probably could take those skills out, so you don't really need to do that. Green Balance is the healing bar, so I have all the passives for that, and I have all the passives for Winter's Embrace. I have all the passives in the Restoration Staff skill tree, again because I'm using the Resto Staff on both on one bar. On the second bar, I'm actually using a Frost Staff, and as a Warden, that gets you a damage shield and also taunts the enemy. So make sure you have a Frost Staff equipped as well. And again, I have light armor on this character, so... Oh, and, sorry, I have a mix of light and heavy. So I've got all the heavy passives and all the light passives. I have the passives for Soul Magic and a couple of passives for Undaunted, but they're not particularly important on this character. And then make sure you have your character's passives as well. So I've got Dark Elf skills in this, and all the passives are equipped. But make sure when you're starting a character to get all the skills you need first before you go into the passives, because the passives are pretty pointless until your character is a level you desire, basically. Going into the champion points now. Again, I have nothing in the tower in the thief tree, so you can skip this completely. You could, if you wanted to, as a tank, have some points in Warlord and some points in Bashing Focused, but it's not necessarily needed with this character because, like I say, you can heal as well. So we have 87 points in Tenacity, 52 points in Arcanist, and 80 points in Mooncalf. The 80 points in Mooncalf are mainly because I don't have any stamina. I don't have any dual wield or anything like that to get stamina back, and Spiked Bone Shield is a stamina ability, and obviously as a tank you're going to be blocking a lot, so you need a lot of points in Mooncalf to get your stamina recovery up. Arcanist, again, I'm using Frost Staff and Resto Staff, so I mainly get my Magicka recovery from Tenacity, hence why I've only got 87 points in this one and not 100 points, because I've mixed them up in this one. Shadow Ward, I have reduced the cost of block by 19%. Again, like I say, I'm going to be blocking a lot as a tank, so reducing the cost of block is massive, especially, as I said, because I need the 80 points in stamina recovery to keep my bone shield in and the block up without using an axe or board and sword abilities to get my stamina back. Shadow Ward is needed massively. Moving into the mage, we have 100 points in Blessed. Again, because this is a multi-role character and can tank and heal, I've got 100 points in heal because he is a crazy healer as well. 90 points in Healthborn because... sorry, Elfborn, even not Healthborn. Like I say, increases your critical and critical damage and critical healing with Magicka abilities, and this is a pure Magicka build again. So having 90 points in this is very, very beneficial. Staff Expert, in this one I have 43 points. I had 42, but I have one to spend. Like I say, I'm using staffs a hell of a lot with this character, so the 43 points in this to do an extra 23.6% damage with the staffs are needed. Master at Arms, if you're using a warden that has a sword and board, then increase the Master at Arms and take off the Staff Expert. You can switch the points over. But like I say, as a warden tank, I mainly just use Magicka abilities. You can, if you wanted to, go into the sword and board skill tree and have a lot of those abilities on to tank completely differently. But like I say, it's Magicka based, so I've got all my points in Staff Expert. Thermatage for the damage over time. The damage over time only comes from the gripping shards on this character, and I believe the crystallized slab, but I'm not too sure. That's why I've only got 33 points in this and not crazy amounts. Again, if you're going to go crazy with this and have a lot of damage over time effects, you could have like the Fetcher Flies and the Shouks, then you could probably cap this at about 65, but like I say, I've only got one area of effect, so I've put 33 points into Thermatage. Going into the Warrior, the points are very similar to my previous build with the healer, so I've got 47 points in Ironclad, 55 in Spell Shield and 55 Resistant. Again, they are needed, and the main three you need with any build. Going into the Lady, we only have 44 points in Elemental Defender. As a tank, you need to take as little damage as you can from Flame Frost, Shock and Magic damage, so the more points in this the better, but again it caps at about 65, so I only put up to about 65 points in this. I wouldn't go higher than that. Going into the the Lord in the Warrior, we have 69 points in Bastion, and this is for my damage shield effectiveness. So the more points in this you have, the better your damage shields are going to be at taking damage and keeping yourself alive longer. As a tank, that's what you're needed for. You're built to take damage, so the more points in this, the better. Again, I would probably cap this at about 75 points. You could go a full 100 if you wanted to, just to be on the safe side, but again, I wouldn't go any higher than 75. And that's the champion points for this character. Going into the attributes, I have all 64 points in the health attribute bar, and again that is only because when I tank I'm not really on my healing bar, so I need a lot of health to take all the damage and all the hits, whilst the DPSs and the main healer is sort of helping the group out. whilst I'm tanking. If I'm also then healing, I don't really need many points in Magicka because I've got all the points in the champion point tree, and because I'm using 2 staffs, the Magicka comes back insanely quick with the heavy attacks anyway. So I've put all the points into the health, into the attributes. And I think that is it for this character.